think we're going to get going. It's about 1:15 if people want to come in or, hang out, eat food. Welcome to the Open Government Hack Night. Whee! Raise your hand if this is your first time here. Wow! Look at all. Round of applause for all new people. If you're not quite sure where you are, this is a weekly event that happens here at 1871 for people to come together and talk about open data and civic technology, and we're going to hear a presentation tonight, but it's also just a place to kind of meet like-minded folks and work on stuff and meet new people and get new ideas about open data and civic technology. So before we get into our presentation, which will be very awesome, it's about the 61st Street Farmers Market, which is run by Experimental Station, and we're going to hear about some of the programs that these guys have going on with food access down the south side. Before we do that, the best part is, and this is a lot of people, so this will take a little bit of time, but I think we can get through it pretty quick, is we got to do it. We got to go around the room and everyone has to say who you are and what you're interested in, or what you're all about. But in like one sentence, if you can do that. So we'll do that, and then we'll have a brief period for announcements, and then we'll get into the presentation, and then we'll break off and do hacky/conversation-y kinds of things. So I'll start with the introductions. I'm Derek Eater. I'm an open data web developer with DataMade and OpenCity, and one of the organizers of this year event. And I make stuff with open data. Let's go this way.
Awesome. My name is Christine. I work as a digital platform manager for Organizing for Action, and there are a bunch of OFA people here right now, so can't wait to hear what they have to say.
I'm Nicholas Marcouli. I'm a project manager for Organizing for Action. I'm interested in issue advocacy.
Eric Van Zandt, local web developer. I work with Derek.
My name is Dan Flynn. I'm trying to just learn about programming.
Bobby Portman. I also work at Organizing for Action. I'm the analytics geek.
I'm Scott. I work at Channel Clarity as a software developer. This is my first time here, so I'm just seeing what it's all about.
I'm a developer, open data, and some crime data.
Toby Fallscraft. I'm also with OFA on the digital team, and mostly just interested in all of what you guys all do, and particularly interested in the new online voter registration in Illinois coming up.
My name's Diego. I'm interested in helping however I can, whatever data you want help with, analysis, coding, testing.
I'm Sarah Hart. I'm an American Vista at the Shrine Center, and I'm interested in learning
I'm a developer at ThoughtWorks.
I'm a undergrad at U Chicago, interested in education and cities.
My name is Kevin. I used to work in digital stuff for the city. Now I'm with a consultant public affairs firm, and I'm trying to connect corporations' social issues or philanthropical issues with cool open data projects.
Michael, I'm also at Organizing for Action. I manage the web product team.
Ryan, local developer. The last time I was here was for the Carter Graphica use. So I'm back again.
I'm Noam. I'm a sysadmin interested in the backbone of the city council.
I'm Dan. I've been learning Python and Ruby for a while, and I want to learn how to do stuff with data.
I'm Rob, and it's like Ben. I've been learning Python for a while, and I want to see a project developed and try to learn and help.
There's Kyle. I build stuff for a creative agency, and I'm interested in visual design.
I'm Ben. I'm a writer, and I came with this hat.
I'm Ken. I'm a software developer at Channel Clarity.
Light instructions.
Miguel, I have a background in finance, investing in neuroscience, and really interested.
I'm Audrey. I'm studying data science, and I'm interested for journalistics.
I'm Denise. I work in the social services agency, and it's my first time here, so I'm just interested in learning more about the projects.
Nathan, I'm a web developer at Go Health Insurance, and interested in the projects going on.
My name is John. I'm brand new to this, kind of interested in community development and education.
Well, I'm working on a startup to make research more accessible to the public.
I'm Ryan, for my first time here. Also with Organizing Corrections. Want to learn more about what you're up to?
Hi, I'm Megan. I write test code.
Graph analytics at Organizing Fraction. Maybe check out the video.
I'm Nick. I'm a backend developer at Organizing Fraction. Just checking out open data.
There's Lincoln as a strategy and analytics education focused. So.
I'm Alma, and I'm a digital organizing fellow at Organizing for Action.
I'm Justin. I'm from the cooperation operation, food justice and urban agriculture group on the far south side, seeing how my project can interact with open source technology.
Hi everyone, my name is Danny Burke. I work at Experimental Station where I manage the 61st Street Farmers Market.
Hey, I'm Daniel. I also work for Experimental Station with this weird. That's it. That's all I do.
There's no way I can follow. My name is Brian Williams. I'm with Southeast Environmental Task Force. We should talk after this. Absolutely. Also, I'm with Cook County Department of Environmental Control. I like long walks on short beaches.
My name is Elise. I'm new to this group and also new to ThoughtWorks. I'm really interested in garbage. I'm really interested in criminal justice system, and I'm really interested in community and economic development.
Not garbage, materials.
Yeah, materials, right. We're working on that together.
Come with me if you want to hack. Sorry, my name is Christopher Whitaker. I'm the Code for America Brigade Captain for the City of Chicago. I had my eyes dilated, so that's why I had this. But later on, I'll be teaching the Civic Hacking 101 class. So if this is your first time here and you're interested in sort of getting into the weeds on civic hacking, I'll be teaching that later.
I'm Jordan. I'm also at Organizing for Action. I'm a developer there, and I'm just interested in how tech can help people.
I'm Nicole. I'm a designer at Organizing for Action, and I'm interested in design for good.
I'm GT Roble, and I'm a math tutor as well as a computer science master's student, and I'm interested in education and computer science.
I'm Lynn Garnott. I do the same, minus the master's.
My name is Renee. I've been observing for a while. Now I'm learning how to make maps.
My name is Lauren. I'm a grad student at Loyola studying stats. I love data, and I'm really interested in like doing kind of like analysis for social good. So I'm here.
I'm Rafi. I'm just interested in learning more about programming, and I'm interested also in sustainability and urban farming.
Hi everyone, I'm Kristen Zelenka, and I started Question Box Studio, where we do design for good. I run cause campaigns, do app prototyping and identity design, and then I also started Trundle.me, where we work with low-income families whose kids don't have bedrooms or even sleeping spaces to co-design those spaces and build with them.
I'm Josh. I'm a GIS analyst and open data consultant, currently working on Cook County open data.
My name is Todd. I'm interested in inexpensive organic food.
I'm Steve. I'm a developer at ThoughtWorks.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Day. I'm a math tutor, and I'm currently playing around with Portugal.
Hi, I'm Paige. I work in business development and strategy for Wizard Software Solutions, and I'm looking to find a project I can jump on and help with that will help the community.
I'm Adrienne. I work at OFA as well as a UX designer, and I also created an app called Recoil that focuses on gun violence in Chicago, so I'm looking to take that to the next level.
I'm Ayanga, and I'm a software developer at ThoughtWorks. I'm Justin. I'm a developer at ThoughtWorks, and I'm interested in community development.
I'm Brent. I do transportation models.
I'm JD, and I do digital ads at Organizing for Action.
I'm Danny. I'm a developer at ThoughtWorks, interested in civic hacking.
Ingo Steinfeld, research director at the Sentencing Policy Advisory Council, where we do criminal justice data work statewide.
I'm Ben Brody. I'm a web developer at Organizing for Action, and I'm interested in using my skills for positive change.
I'm Steve. I do GIS work for the city of Gary, Indiana, and I'm just interested in the cool stuff that governments use data for. Chris Hagan, I'm a data reporter with the UTV.
I'm Bob. I'm interested in open data and civic technology. I have a lot of development experience.
Is everybody in the back there? I'm Javad. I'm a developer at Front Club, and I have a project where I take data from GovTrack and put it in the graph database.
James Branchfire, do cluster analysis.
Linda, honorary Chicago, maps and biographies of the honorary streets in Chicago, and also a completely different project, energy. Looking for a potential intern for the summer, data analytics or and infographics for energy.
Martin and
Everybody? All right, awesome. What a awesome, diverse group as usual. Oh, yes. Oh, did we miss somebody?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't know. Please.
I'm Sheila Lewis. I own a video and media production company, and I am interested in technology around the food inequities in marginalized communities.
In the right place. Great. So before we get to the presentation, anybody have any announcements for events? Keep that hand up just a second. Announcements about events or something you'd like to share that's sort of open data or open government related with the group?
So May 31st through June 1st is National Day of Civic Hacking. This is a national event spearheaded by the White House. This year we're going to be having our event at the offices of Kate Cura in the Loop. In the mornings we're going to have talks from the Chicago Area Red Cross, the Southwest Organizing Project, the possibly DCFS. So these will be hour sessions where they'll be talking about their day-to-day needs and challenges. And in the afternoon, we'll challenge everyone to make prototype apps based to kind of meet the needs of those who talked in the sessions. To register, you can look us up on Meetup at Illinois Open Technology, and we'll be right there.
Other announcements?
I don't know if you announced it last week at Transparency Camp at the end of May.
Yeah.
In case you want to tell them about that.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So that's something that I'm going to as well. Transparency Camp is, I think it's their 7th year. I know it sounds really nerdy. It kind of is, but if you're in this room, it's pretty much nerdy. So this is run by an organization called the Sunlight Foundation. They're in DC, and it's an unconference, and it's basically the who's who of open government and civic technology and open data come to this event and just kind of get together and talk about all the issues that we like to talk about. So yeah, I'm going, and is anybody else going to Transparency Camp? Eric, you're going, right? Oh, yes, right. Yes. Okay. Well then, it's great. It's pretty much like $40 to register or something, and then it's really just flying to DC. It costs. It's really awesome. I went last year, and it was very awesome. There's just a national scene here that I was not fully aware of until I went to this event. So it's great. Other announcements? Well, before we get started, then I would just like to say thank you to ThoughtWorks for the food. Yeah. And also, the burritos came from Chipotle, which they actually gifted to us, thanks to our friends at Experimental Station. So thanks to our multiple sponsors. This is great. So I guess without further ado, I guess that's like a little bit of a lead. Danny Burke and Daniel E. from Experimental Station.
Cool.
Just to your seat, because I don't have those. Oops, sorry.
All right, guys, we're here to talk today about 61st Street Farmers Market. It's a program of Experimental Station. We're a nonprofit down in Woodlawn. Just as an opening shout out to Kristen as well as Open Gov Group, because we found her for design services here, and we have a lovely new kind of look for our marketing materials for 61st Street Farmers Market this year. So if you guys want to have some fridge magnets, just a little reminder.
The landscape might not mean anything to you, but it's actually like if you're standing right in front of the market's banner, and that's a steam plant and University of Chicago kind of looming, and she did a really good job of capturing that you're at the market if you've never been there. So, yeah.
Alrighty, so we just say beep or
just point
okay.
or just
cool.
Cool. So Daniel was going to do it by himself tonight, and he dragged me here. I have a 4th grade cooking class going down at Experimental Station right now as part of our farmers market outreach. They're making some homemade pizzas and chopping some onions. So if my cell phone does ring, a 4th grader probably lost a finger, so I might have to step out. So excuse me for that. But so the 61st Street Farmers Market will be entering our 7th year down at Experimental Station. Farmers markets have various different missions. Our mission, when it was founded in 2008, was to provide fresh food to the Southside area that does not have it. So it's a very different mission than some of the other farmers markets around, which aren't necessarily bad missions to cater to chefs and things like that. But ours is explicitly to serve underserved communities. That's the mission and why it was founded, and that is what all of our programs are built around. You can go ahead and click. So just a little bit about Experimental Station, and by the way, this is a really loosely structured presentation. I actually haven't even seen some of the slides we put in there, so please shout out questions when you see them on the screen, or if you have them. We're not going to save the questions to the end. I kind of want to just take the conversation where it's going to go and where you all want to take it. So a little bit of background about Experimental Station. So what we do down on the south side of Woodlawn is build independent cultural infrastructure. And rather than tell you what that is, I'll just tell you what it looks like and what our programs actually do. So the big one is healthy food access with the 61st Street Farmers Market, Link Up, Illinois, where we work with about 50 markets across the state and 15 City of Chicago markets to provide food stamp, which is also Link, EBT, food stamp, SNAP. Those are acronyms. All mean food stamps at 15 City Chicago markets, and we provide double value coupon funding, so folks shopping at farmers markets, every dollar they spend with their Link card is matched up to $25 at the Experimental Station 61st Street Market. So you swipe 25, you get 50. So we work a lot with those healthy food access advocacy programs. We also have Blackstone Bicycle Works, which is a full-service bike shop with a youth education focused mission. There's about 300 kids at our program throughout the whole year, and they learn. We have this apron system, different color aprons. They learn how to fix up bikes, how to work the point of sale machine, all that good stuff. Invisible Institute, human rights and journalism institution. They're currently doing a lot of work now with Chicago Public Schools and working with security guards and providing training videos for security guards and how they interact with students and what that means for the culture of violence. And then we have a great space down there if you've never been down to 6100 South Blackstone. We do all sorts of different arts and public events. Just name one recent one. So back in January when Illinois passed the concealed carry law, we did a call for proposals for artists, and they did a bunch of installations on what concealed carry is going to mean for our society. So that's just a quick snapshot of Experimental Station and all the stuff we do before we get into the nitty-gritty. Go ahead. All right, so this is definitely probably a data-driven crowd, which I'm not necessarily used to speaking to, so I want to get straight to the numbers and how we can use data, especially with Link and food stamp purchases, redemptions at 61st Street Market for kind of the public good. So just a quick, it's pretty low-tech how a system works at the farmer's market to accept Link food stamps. So if I have a Link card, I'm a Link card holder, I go to the market information booth, I swipe my card for $25. I'll get $25 in what's called just like Monopoly money, you can imagine, and then $25 extra in that double value coupon to match that. So now I have a stack of $50, and then I go shop individually at each of the different farmers market stands. And the reason we have to do that is because currently, you can't swipe your Link card on a Square device or any mobile device that the farmers market has. They're actually rolling out a pilot program this year, but for now, you need a paper receipt if you're a Link shopper, and so that's why we have to do a kind of that that Stone Age way. But because we do it that way, we have our hands in the data and where that money is being redeemed, because we have to then cut checks for the farmers at the end of the day when they are giving us back their. So on Tuesday at my office, I'm just counting thousands of dollars in this small monopoly money, and so this is where all the data is coming from, just to give you a picture. Are there any questions about how that works on the ground, or why we do it that way when there's, you know, when we live in the 21st century or anything like that? Or you want me to go on? Yeah.
So if they swipe and they get their $25 or like $50
Mhm.
money, do they have to then go spend it all, or if they don't spend it, can they like refund that back to their card?
Yeah, so they won't refund it back to their card. What most shoppers do is they budget that money, so you don't have to spend it that day. You just have to spend it within that calendar year market season, just so for our accounting purposes, it's on the books. And so what a lot of folks do, and we'll get into this a bit later, is because people that are working or using Lincoln, even they're not paid a living wage, so their money is not lasting till the end of the month. So they'll save up that double value, and when their Link dollars run out, then at the end of the month, if they came at the first 3 Saturdays, they at least have $75 extra to use that 4th Saturday at the market, or save it up for a Thanksgiving turkey or something like that. So that's kind of how it works.
Related question,
Mhm.
who's funding the match?
So the match is all privately funded through pretty much our executive director, Connie, just writing grants. So things like Wholesome Wave, Greer Foundation, University of Chicago Madison throws in a little bit. Am I forgetting?
Chicago Community Trust.
Chicago Community Trust. And so that's where it comes from now. It's moved more from a proof of concept to actually getting an itemized line in the Farm Bill, the 2014 Farm Bill. So it's called FINIP, the Food Incentive Nutrition Program. And so there's like they threw us a few pennies, like $100 million over 5 years to kind of do this, but that won't be coming along the pipeline until 2015, 2016. So for now, we'll keep having to privately fund it, but it has its challenges, as you can imagine, to make sure all the dollars are matching up.
Counterfeiting problems?
I love this question. So the day that we have to worry about counterfeiting problems of people counterfeiting farmers market dollars to buy fresh, local, organic food, then we have won. We are not there yet. We haven't had any instances with counterfeiting at all. We've had one instance where a vendor's bag disappeared, and I don't know if they lost it or if someone swiped it or how that worked. But that's the only instance we've ever had. I really hope that people start, like, oh, we got like $5,000 counterfeit at 61st Street. That make me actually happy. It'd be a nightmare on the books. But yeah.
As happy as we would be about that, we do have some safeguards. So we track week by week which link monies were distributed versus which link monies were redeemed, right? So if we ever see more monies being redeemed by the farmers than was actually just handed out, then we know that somebody is pushing extra monopoly money into the mix. So, yeah. So we haven't seen it yet. Yeah. Don't get any ideas.
Is it really monopoly money, or you?
I mean, I wish I would have brought one.
Yeah.
But it's actually, we do credit and debit as well, so there's no stigma attached. Everyone's going to that same tent and getting. So
Not only are there no grocery stores, there's also no ATMs.
So they're like,
so
they're just simple little dollars like this in $1 and $5 increments. And there are different colors based on if it's linked double value, credit, debit, just so the farmers knows which can be redeemed for what food items. So that's kind of how it works.
It's 1,000 customers on average each Saturday, and 37 customers, and that $37,000 a Saturday, and 63,000.
No, that's foot
Yeah.
traffic.
So, yeah.
1,100 folks, only a certain percentage of them using their link cards.
Yeah, so for link shoppers, it's somewhere between 50 and 70 on an outdoor market in terms of actual transactions, depending on the weather and that kind of stuff. Yeah, all the way back there.
Sorry, what is FoodRx?
Cool, yeah, so I'll go in and kind of explain the breakdown here. So FoodRx is a program with University of Chicago Madison. As you can see, it was a pilot this year. It's with the Improving Southside Diabetes organization, and so what they do is they provide these food prescription literally prescriptions to local health clinics in the area, who then prescribe them to the patients, and then the patients come to the market and can redeem them there where there's a nutritionist on. And so
we'll talk more about that. Yeah, we'll talk more about food RX in a little bit.
And Market Money is just what we give kids that do our healthy cooking classes, gardening classes. They can come and buy stuff at the market. But this is kind of just a breakdown in terms of, so the link and the double value. So we're just under 40,000, and believe it or not, that's #1 in the state of Illinois, which we're proud of, but also very sad because it's only $38,000 compared with the huge pot of SNAP dollars that are in the city of Chicago. But the first year we did this in 2008 for an entire 26-week market season, we swiped $1,000 in Lincoln. Just 7 years later, you know, it's grown to close to 40, which has been a good growth, and it continues to grow that way.
Are you marketing to you know, people that get linked to? I mean, because I know a lot of people that have linked that don't shop at farmers markets and probably would if they realized that the double value coupon program existed and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think that's probably about 80% of my job, whether it's at 6 a.m. when I'm going on my run, having a stack of flyers, talking to folks lining up in food pantry lines. We have really close relationships with the Department of Human Service office on 63rd Street. So we're there every Friday morning before the market. We're doing tastings this week, this season, doing strawberries and fruit and stuff like that. So yeah, we do pound the pavement. That's actually most of what my job entails in terms of community outreach and organizing. So we're seeing gains. But so I'm going to just hold off questions so we can kind of keep moving a little bit more, just until we get to the next slide. And then this is mostly, so all the data stuff, you could just see the progression. And what I want to get to more is how these dollars break down with the vendors. So you can keep going. One more. Cool. Yeah. All right. So here we are. So there's a big clamor in terms of on the federal level of having the government force big retailers like your Walmarts, like your Targets, to release data on how people that are shopping with SNAP cards, food stamps, are spending, what they're spending their dollars on. And so they won't do that, and they're not legally obligated to do that until the USDA makes them. But until then, we're going to release our numbers in in our small corner of the world and see what kind of story that tells. So this is all the different categories of what we sell at 61st Street Farmers Market. And as I was explaining before in terms of how we redeem it, so we know if Ellis Family Farms gives me $2,000 on a Saturday and they sell 80% fruit, 10% eggs, and 10% honey, then when we plug those numbers in our data set, we can kind of have a breakdown of what people are spending. And the big finding that we found is that 51% of SNAP or double value coupon dollars are spent on fresh fruits and vegetables. We'll get to a graphic a little later of American grocery spending habits released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics back in 2012, and that number for fresh fruits and vegetables was 14%. And so our thing is, if you create and build up a food environment, most of the time people are going to make healthy, really well-balanced choices at a market rather than dealing with all the restrictive policies that are out there with restrict what people can buy with their food stamps. If you just provide incentives and a good shopping environment, usually that'll kind of take care of itself.
Sure, for sure. And in a more general sense, we're also addressing the common stigma that, you know, poor people don't eat healthy, poor people don't want to eat healthy, and we find that it's not it's certainly not a matter of lack of desire to eat healthy. It is just a lack of access to a food environment that is conducive to healthy eating. We can also see here pretty clearly that people just straight up don't get enough money on their link cards. Like beginnings of months are high, ends of months are low. I think we averaged $773 in link swipes on the first month, on the first Saturdays of the month, and only like $300-400 on the last Saturdays of any given month. So whatever it is in terms of like food stamps money that are being offered, we can see here very clearly that they're not meeting the needs of the community on a per link card holder basis. And this is with the double value coupons. And if those double value coupons hadn't been offered, it sounds like a gross statistic, we'll get to it later, but 0% of our respondents at our yearly survey for 61st Street Market said that they would have come without the double value coupons. So if you don't have that incentive, you literally are not going to drive that low income traffic to the market because the price points are too high. It's just inaccessible. At the same time, it's not reasonable to say to a local farmer, often who are themselves on food assistance, hey, cut your prices down for this poor area. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a wedge in there.
Yep.
So that's what we're looking at.
Just the other cool data point, so you look at the dates down here. If y'all are familiar with eating seasonally, we have pretty short season here in the Midwest in terms of when the peak of harvest is for fresh fruits and vegetables, but it's right about September 1st. And you can see that's when the chunk for fruits and vegetables are the highest. Again, just showing that when more fruits and vegetables are available, most human beings are going to make the choice to buy that at their peak of freshness. And so that's kind of what we're finding as opposed to, so this is the end of the year when all the red vegetables are gone, and then the beginning of the year when there's just some purple asparagus and rhubarb. Coming up soon here in 2 weeks, 61st Street Market, 9 to 2. But you can see when there's not a variety, then people they're shifting their spending habits.
Also a little bit of turkey spend here on the meat category. End of the year holiday stuff.
And on its face, it doesn't seem like this data is that impressive, but farmers markets aren't doing this. They're just not data heavy or releasing any of this, or mostly because they don't track it. They're more on, making the argument, oh, come and shake the hand of the farmer that grew your lettuce, and that's great and all. But we want to kind of get more into the nitty gritty and make an economic case for farmers markets, which is where all this is eventually going to lead to. And so that's kind of the impetus behind it all. All right, you can go to the next one. Surprise, I don't know. And again, it's just
this is the same stuff, but just with a proportional view. So you can see here, fruits and veggies, man. Boom. Big old slice.
And then, so how it all breaks down is 80% of the dollars spent on with link and double value is on farm fresh, unprocessed foods, things like meat, things like eggs, and fresh fruits and vegetables. So most of that stuff, most of the link dollars are going to completely unprocessed food items that are hopefully leading to better health outcomes, which we'll also get to later. You can go ahead and switch it.
What is value added?
So value added in the farmers market world means things like jams, jellies, pickled mushrooms, salsa. So value added is actually a pretty healthy category. It's just not your fresh.
Yeah. In fact, for the state of Illinois especially block grants, we actually lump value added in with the fruits and vegetables because of the fact that we require value-added items to come from 75% local sources to be sold. So that, for the most part, that's another way of eating your fruits and vegetables. So yeah. And for the most part, it's not one. There's some granola. There's some.
Yeah.
But.
And does anyone know what specialty crops refers to in the room? Like what that means when we say specialty crops? Because I didn't until about 2 years ago.
No, this is the one I used to make my brownies with.
Indeed, specialty crops are fruits and vegetables. They're your strawberries, they're your peppers, they're your eggplants. And so corn, soybean, oats, they're all called by their names. But we call food specialty crops. That's what the government calls food, which I think tells a lot about the food policy problems that we're having in this country. So specialty crops are food. Just so you know, I'm starting to transition away from specialty crops and just call what it is, food. What do we got here? Oh, my plate. This is kind of.
Yeah, sure. Okay, cool. And we should have like a little caveat about this. But for instance, we just made a really, I hate pie charts, but we made one for this because ChooseMyPlate.gov, USDA has it. This is the new food pyramid. You guys familiar with Choose My Plate? Y'all love Choose My Plate? Hi. Okay, fruits, vegetables, half. Oh, wait a minute. What do we do at the farmer's market? Fruits, vegetables, half. That's weird. We would love to see any private grocer that is offering food stamps step up and like offer some food category information. We would love to see that. We would love to see comparable stuff and see what types of food environments are actually the better ones. We have a feeling that open air farmers markets with a heavy mix of fresh produce blends are where that's going to happen. But we should say also that this is percentages of dollars spent. So we need to think carefully about this before we kind of lump this, right? Because this is a plate of food and this is a plate of money. And not every single calorie costs the same amount of money, right? And not every single mineral content or vitamin content costs the same amount of money. But this is just to generally kind of give a sense of this is what we're delivering by building this specific type of food environment. And this is not something that happens overnight. This has been going on since 2008, building from like really, really small starts, as you guys saw. I think we can keep on going. Oh yeah, so along the whole thing about food stamp stigma, in terms of people who are not on food stamps, who actually is following the USDA My Plate recommendations? About 2%. About 2% of any given American meal actually follows the My Plate guidelines. Okay, so if we're saying that we're going to hold this low-income standard up to this certain kind of thing, or say that like, hey, we need to have them feel bad about not like about buying too much junk food or whatever, like let's examine our own house first.
And then just a quick caveat. So there's one old white guy in a suit that I actually have some respect for that works in Washington, D.C. And his name is Kevin Concanon. He's the Undersecretary of the USDA, which is the agency charged with SNAP food stamps and all that good stuff. And so he has to field a ton of questions about, you know, we should restrict what people can, you know, buy food stamps with, and we should do this, and we should do that, and we should basically just control poor people's lives. And so he always brings a stat up to show that just 2% of the time Americans in general are following this. So why don't we have a more holistic picture and not just focus on those that are using food assistance and SNAP? So Kevin Concanon, he's also a Cubs fan. He's an Iowa player.
I think we can go to the next slide.
So this is the graph that I was referencing earlier from the Bureau of Labor, Department of Labor, whatever they call themselves nowadays, that just shows a snapshot of how Americans spent money on groceries in 1982 versus 2012. So, you know, you can see Americans in general are an unhealthy lot with that, you know, 23% spending on processed foods and sweets. But when you compare this with the breakdown of 61st Street Market and other markets, we can see that it, you know, it really tells a story for sure. Any questions about this graph or how we compared them?
What about additional shopping? Do you have any idea about additional shopping that these people do? Because usually I go to the farmer's market, but I also end up still going to.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we don't have enough to compare it, and that's a huge point because we don't know where the rest of their food budget has come from. And we do an exit survey. 1 October of the year, we're asking all of our shoppers, like, how many times do you shop at the farmer's market per year? What percentage of your fruits and vegetables do you purchase at the farmer's market? What percentage is other places? But we really haven't matched that data yet because I don't think we have enough from those surveys. And I think it would certainly be more powerful. We'll make a better case if we had that. It's just kind of hard to obtain, but I know what you're going at. I think that's definitely a good point. That's well taken. Because the farmer's market is, we don't pretend to be the solution to food policy, food access, food justice. It's a whole lot of things. And just so because you're shopping there, you know, 2, 3, 4 Saturdays of the month isn't going to necessarily mean you're going to change your habits.
Does the farmer's market accept cash?
Yes, it does. We get that question.
Do you have a ballpark guesstimate about like what portion of the purchases are cash? Because I didn't see a cash slice of the pie.
Yeah, so farmers are a private bunch. They don't like to disclose a lot in terms of their cash sales, and so really it's going straight to their pocket. So which is great because it's not going to the food marketers or us or the middlemen or anything like that. So I never see the cash portion of it. But to give you an idea of the link and double value, it's about 10, depending on the vendor and what they sell, about 10 to 25% of their sales are from link and double value. So it's a real, you know, additional economic driver, especially down on the south side when we don't have as much foot traffic as on the north side. Some farmers have told us if we didn't accept link and double value, then it wouldn't be financially viable for them. So here you're kind of seeing an opportunity where low-income folks are really driving the growth of the local food movement.
Yeah. Your data collection is by how it's described on the receipt. Is that how you're getting your data?
There are certain things that we can get at, and there's certain things we can't get at. We can't. The actual link card customer is anonymized, so batch by batch, we can't track like the same link card number and like in particular individuals' spending habits. What we can account for is we can account for the redemption to say which vendors received how much of these link monies. And then when we ask those vendors, well, this week, what was your percentage breakdown by sales by food category? That's how we kind of like backhacked that data, right? So there is going to be a couple of percentage points of jiggle room because it's self-reported and it's not like a grocery store where you're like barcode scanning every single thing. And then in terms of basically all we can really do with the consumer link card holder data is like we can run averages, mins and maxes, like trends across time. But there are some USDA rules about release of data that make a ton of sense, and there are others that don't make any sense at all. We're going to get to that in a little bit, but there's a very limited amount of stuff that we can actually even kind of get at. I think we're good for the next one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I don't know. It's just you mentioned the profit with your data in terms of how much food costs versus how much like actually weight of like the what food it actually is. Do you have numbers on just like I know that meat costs more than other types of food, for instance. So, like the last thing. I don't know if you had numbers, just to do an average.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're this summer we actually got a couple of interns from which is the next slide, from the USC Department of Urban Planning. They're going to work on price parity stuff for us and working with grocery stores, the small sample that there are in the neighborhood, and doing comparisons with convenience stores and price per nutrient and things like that. So if you check in with us at this time next year, we'll have a lot more of that data.
There's also some cool freaky stuff you can do with like Burke's refractometry, and you can actually take nutrient density readings of the given fruits and vegetables to a certain extent, and it would be kind of really, really cool because it's true, like the stuff that's naturally and organically grown is more mineral rich, has more vitamins, has more phytonutrients, everything else like that. You look at a given Link household in Woodlawn is 2.5 to 3 people per Link card household, so it's not only a matter of calories, but it's like, are these people getting enough vitamins, are they getting nutrients? And if your food is more nutrient rich, then you need to buy less of it or eat less of it to get there or whatever. So we would love to have really, really, really detailed drill down information about this price parity and like kind of consumer empowerment on this to make the final case to the consumer that this is all a good deal, but this is in progress. So yeah.
So this was a little project we did last summer. When I started managing farmers markets, I realized that farmers markets suck in trying to track inventory and having supply match with demand. Like, how do you know that you're not missing out on selling a whole nother lug of strawberries and $400 on a Saturday? Like, how are people measuring that? And the answer is that farmers markets aren't measuring their supply or their demand and how to kind of mesh those two in a more efficient way because local food distribution has a ton of flaws. So our little attempt at trying to start that conversation last year was a couple of interns for us created this really long spreadsheet. Up at the top we have all of our vendors' names. On the sidebar we have all the products on that specific market day that were sold. And we had them go around with clipboards at the every half hour and see, all right, are strawberries still on the table at 10? If they're not, then you put a no. And after 10, how many people came to the farmer's market after 10 o'clock that were potential customers for strawberries? And kind of demonstrate this to the vendors, because being on the south side, all of the farmers tend to send most of their produce to markets like Green City or Logan Square, where they know they can get a higher price point for it. And they think, oh, it's the south side, it's a smaller market, people don't want to eat fresh food. And so the impetus and the reason for this was to try to show, hey, like you're sending X amount of strawberries, your table's sitting empty for 4 hours. You're paying someone to sit there and not sell anything when we had 875 people coming after you sold your last strawberry. Like, show us some love here. And it really worked. And we kind of were able to have these more hard data, if you want to call it, to show to the vendors and say, hey, you're not making the best bang for your buck. And so I don't know exactly where this is going to lead or how it's going to go, but farmers markets just don't do this in general. They don't think enough about simple supply and demand economics, farmers market managers and the vendors themselves.
And maybe you're going to get to this, but are you guys working with other farmers market managers to sort of talk about the importance of this level of analysis? Because it's so amazing that you guys are doing this level of detailed data collection.
So we have we work a lot with the Illinois Farmers Market Association. One of our coworkers is on the board there, Corey Chapman. So we have those connections. The big problem you run into, I can count on my one hand how many paid full-time farmers market managers there are in the city of Chicago. Right. And so you need a full-time paid farmers market manager to do this. And the fact of the matter is that most farmers markets in the country, I don't know what the percentage is or if the survey was done, but the vast majority do not have, most are all volunteer run, like an actual farmer is going to run them. And so it's really hard to kind of gather this type of of data. We can see it a lot better through our Link Up program and how we work with like the 50 markets across the state and the city of Chicago. We have a data portal with Wholesome Wave where everyone's inputting their SNAP redemption numbers in DVCP. So that data is a little easier to get at than this type of stuff, which requires a lot of woman and manpower for sure.
Cool. I think we're good for the next one. And this was actually what we already talked about. This is Green City from this year or last year, but we want to do something similar. Yeah.
How much?
Yeah, we mentioned that. Yeah, I think we can go to the next one. Cool. So one of the interesting things that we want to do, and this is maybe something that y'all can talk to me about after if you're curious or clever with this type of thing. Xerox runs the trunk for 13 states for the SNAP system for the food stamps. Like we said, they cannot release it. They cannot release individual level purchasing information, and they cannot release the final business recipients of that money. So what we could get them to do was to release cardholder's zip code and then the month that they made their visit, how many visits, and the sum of those transactions. And that goes back like since we've had our FNS number, which is like 2011, I think, like that. And then the tricky thing is though that we have a single FNS number to serve the entire city of Chicago network of farmers markets. So it's really, really difficult for us to unpack this because they only are giving it to us by the month and not by like day to day, in which case we would be able to say, oh, that transaction was at that market or whatever else. So tricky stuff, but we literally just got this data and we're kind of like trying to pour through it and see if there's kind of like some cool stuff to see, like are there any gaps, any areas of the city that we're missing that we should maybe put another farmer's market or like an area that's underserved or hard to get to or something like that. Next slide. Same view of this. The other thing that we have access to is that the number of households and individuals for every given zip code, quarter by quarter. So we could kind of possibly, I don't know how to do this, but maybe y'all know how to do this. Compare like current food stamp households by zip code versus the kind of like economic activity that happened through our work at the farmers markets. Kind of an idea. Anyway, next. We've already gotten into this a lot, so I'm going to kind of go quickly. Double value coupon programs, that's the incentive that we've been talking about. It's the dollar for dollar match. They've been happening all across the country for a number of years now. Some folks are all about them, some folks do them less so. And like Danny was saying, it's all kind of part of a lead up to try to get these value incentives worked into federal legislation. We did get them into the Farm Bill for this year's Farm Bill. However, at the very least, they are going to require a 50-50 match. So that means we're still going to need that philanthropic money, that state money, that community money, whatever else, in order to pull down those federal funds to match. Also, it's really sad, but if you look at the tiny little $100 million slice over 5 years versus the billions of stacks of subsidies for the nasty stuff, it's like, why did you guys even, you know, like why did you peel out this money? It's kind of like symbolic money, but hey, we're going to take it, we're going to work with it. Next slide. Next slide, blah, blah, blah. Just a visual view. This is based on a real purchase at 61st Street last year. This is your $25 spend, real farmers market prices, and this is when you double it. So if you're thinking about what that can mean week to week for a family that is in need of extra healthy food, this is like kind of a image way to have a peek at that. That's that for that. Next one. 1 out of 6 Illinoisans receive SNAP-linked benefits. Hunger is a huge problem. Even as the economy starts to get a little bit better, hunger also is getting worse, so we need to have deep thoughts as a society about that. And as we see before, also SNAP benefits have been going down and down and down. Last fall, the extension ran out, knocked about 8% off, and then with the coming Farm Bill, I think we're seeing another, I forget the exact percentage, but it's another ding in the amount that food assistance per family will have, so that's kind of gross.
So this is the data that Daniel kind of referenced before. So every year we do a survey of link shoppers. Just to give you the idea of the sample size, this was probably, I think, like 58, and that's on that October day that we did that. That's how many link shoppers we were able to catch at the farmer's market. And like Daniel said, it seems kind of like a dirty stat, but it's true. 0% of link shoppers would have shopped at 61st Street without the double value coupon incentive, which speaks to your call for inexpensive organic food. It's not there. The other thing, 85% of customers consume more fresh produce because they use the double value coupon program. And as Daniel talked about before, we're seeing a huge stretch between, and we're only redeeming probably like 1,000 per market. So when you compare a $300 or $400 bump down at the last market of the month versus the first, because people's link dollars are running out, that DVCP really is kind of a band-aid measure to let folks stretch their food budget at the end of the month. All right. Yeah, we touched a lot on this.
Yeah. We touched a lot on this. Yeah. Oh yeah. Do you guys want to like go through news stuff real quick in the news? Just real quick, 2 seconds each. Okay. So this is there's a cool FOIA thing that's going on. It looks like it's going to go our way. The USDA was claiming that program data was exempt, so they didn't have to declare which corporate recipients of food stamp monies there were. So basically, all of your food stamp tax money was going into a huge black box, and there was no way you as a taxpayer would ever be able to know which businesses were the recipients of those monies. So hopefully that is going to change, although I think it got kicked down to another judge, and now there's going to be a little bit more time on it. But that is something that develops, and if you care about transparency in government, like you should care about transparency in food. So that's that. Next. Yeah, in the meantime, we keep on subsidizing GMO crops, and if scientists don't know better, I don't know who else is supposed to know better, but you can read all of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages which summarily just say that GMOs are, and the way that they have been grown is hugely problematic for the world, is hugely problematic for carbon, and global warming, and the land, and human health, and everything else. It's just the worst. All right, next. Yeah, so how about those California vegetables? Really delicious, right? Well, we might not be able to have those forever. Drought conditions also happening in other very majorly producing parts of the world. In the meantime, in Illinois, we have some of the best soils in the world. I think it's like Illinois and the Ukraine have like the best soils in the world. However, we grow almost no food for ourselves to eat. We grow almost completely commodity crops to be shipped worldwide in like the global commodities market or whatever. So the weird thing is that it might not even be a policy thing. It might be just a total like need thing. Like how many areas in the world will even be able to grow fruits and vegetables? We might be the only one. So we may as well do that now. Cool. Next up. I don't know, some of y'all work with Obama or whatever, right? Can one of you guys give him a call and tell him to stop this stuff? It's so dumb. Yeah, corn ethanol still huge loser for carbon, huge loser for energy, huge loser for petroleum. Horrible idea all around, but still catching huge government gravy. So
and we should have pulled the graphic, but there's a good graphic if you go back to that My Plate graphic of how the government tells you to eat. They have a My Plate graphic for funding broken down in the Farm Bill and what it goes to, and it's all grains pretty much.
Yeah.
So
it's a trippy thing, right? On the one hand, the USDA is like, here's how you should eat, and on the other thing, they're like, here, farmers, here's a bunch of money to grow stuff that you totally shouldn't eat. So, yeah. Next. Oh no, Chipotle, sorry. Obligatory. Say goodbye to avocados, say goodbye to guacamole. You're not going to be able to get it without a significant cash outlay. So that's going to be wrecked. Next. Say goodbye now. Buy your.
For no other reason, and save the guacamole.
So as you can see, this is, if you go to the Environmental Working Group, they have a really, really good data portal for farm subsidy money and where it goes, and specifically where and how, and what all those programs are for year to year. As you can see again here, specialty crops, aka as Danny would call them food, do not even make the top 10 list in Illinois. So next. Oh, whoops. Next. Another thing, food deserts. Can we stop talking about food deserts, please? It is not a metrical term. It doesn't have any meaning. We can say food deserts, but there is no meaning. It doesn't mean anything. Can anybody describe to me exactly what a food desert means? Metrically? Cool, yeah. We can pretty much stop using those terms. You guys might suggest other terms. Other terms might be suggested or used. We use food environments. We use food access. And we just, generally speaking, like to talk about specific communities and their specific challenges. Whereas it's very easy if you define, oftentimes food deserts are also very car culture oriented. So food desert statistics are often quoted by how long you have to drive in order to get to a grocery store, right? Well, first of all, we don't need any grocery stores and we don't need any driving. So the fact that we're describing food deserts based on these metrics doesn't even make any sense in the first place. And for instance, if for instance, as was announced last year, that a bunch of food deserts had been healed or whatever the thing was or whatever they were saying, the fact is that even if you have an area that's, let's say, technically moves from a food desert area to a non-food desert area, well, what about like a senior residence building that's in that non-food desert area where those seniors still have like almost no access to fresh, healthy foods? It's like, are they all of a sudden not living in a food desert? You know what I mean? Like they're totally in their own food desert. So we need to be much more specific and much more metrical when we talk about food access challenges, and not just be like food desert this, food desert that, heal the food deserts. It doesn't have any meaning. All right, next up. Due to our participation here at OpenGov and in the CNT's Urban Sustainability Apps competition last year, we actually made an app for farmers markets, and this has to do with the linkages that are coming around with the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, and there is all of a sudden a very, very huge interest from the health sector in farmers markets because there's all of a sudden this huge turnaround and push towards preventative health and preventative care. And farmers markets play a big part in that. So if you followed this at all or whatever over the last year and a half, all over the country, there have been all kinds of kind of like partnerships and connections. CDC here, Blue Cross here, everybody here, right? So farmers markets and health sector are going to be working together much more closely. We don't know what's going to happen with this app. Just to say it plainly now, it has a certain programmatic implementation for us. But to a certain extent, we just wanted it to serve as a kind of like conversation starter with how these awesome food environments can like lead to awesome health outcomes. So you can click the next one here.
We did use it on Saturday.
We did use it for the first time on Saturday, so it's happening. So we're looking at food insecurity already. We have significant costs related to diabetes, obesity, and other like lifestyle diseases in this area. Those costs are projected to get much worse. If you look at the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation projections on diabetes costs of care in Illinois alone, you will be discouraged. We have a lot of challenges when it comes to health and preventative care in this state and in this country. So we can go to the next one. All right, cool. So it comes around to the time now where the doctor man is finally starting to get pissed off at the food man, and that's pretty cool. Agricultural policies versus health policies, they're just not jamming. And with all the things coming around with the Affordable Care Act, this stuff is just not going to make sense anymore. Of course, next slide. Of course, it would have been Michael Pollan who would have called this 4 years ago in an article that is uncannily prescient today. So I would recommend that. It's a really good read. And I don't know if you guys want to take votes over whether you think the sugar man or the insurance man is going to win here, but I'll leave, I guess the future will tell. All right, next up. Cool, so Illinois adopted the ACA Medicaid expansion. I don't know, some people were here for the LISC talk on outreach with that, so that was really, really cool. But in general, what we're seeing is we're seeing a huge overlap between Medicaid and LINK recipients. I think one of them is pegged at 133% of poverty line, the other one's at 138% of poverty line. So much so that some states are even starting to collapse their applications for food stamps as well as Medicaid. I mean, ACA has so many things going on with it, but other things, nonprofit hospital and health sector providers have to provide CHNAs, community health needs assessments, and demonstrate metrical impact of their charitable dollars on actual community health. Next. We talked about the fruit and veggie prescription program briefly. So we had a pilot program with the fruit and veggie prescription, but what we found is that it didn't really work, and the redemption rates were really low, mostly because it was kind of cumbersome. You have to scare somebody to go into a doctor's office or into a hospital. You have to hope that the doctor gives them that fruit and veggie prescription. The fruit and veggie prescription is only good for fresh fruits and vegetables, not like anything at the market, like our double value money is. And then you have to kind of like get that person convinced to go back and visit that market, right? And we're like, why are we doing this in like 2 or 3 steps when we can maybe be doing it in 1 step? So the idea that we came up with a Link Up app is it's actually a health tent at the farmer's market. It's staffed by UFC Med. We demoed it last Saturday for the first time. Worked like a charm, apparently. So the idea is that for anybody who has a Link card, they can come to the health tent. They can get some basic health metrics measured. It's an outreach moment for the hospitals, and then we literally pay them with more money to spend at the farmer's market in exchange for taking that moment to get their health checked or whatever. So we think that this could be lower administrative costs, the fruit and veggie programs have pretty significant evaluative costs just because of all the kind of like paperwork shuffling this way, that way, and the other thing. So we think that with this technology, we can reduce administrative costs, and we can reduce stigma, we can reduce time spent in actual in hospitals and clinics, and that's very, very expensive time, whereas if you're at a farmer's market and you just have like some volunteer nurses or something like that, it might be much more economical. And the other thing is that we're already having significant foot traffic of low-income customers, and since we already have this foot traffic of low-income customers on Link Card, now under the ACA, we can pretty much guarantee or assume that any person who's coming to us with a Link Card, the state also cares about their health outcomes. Next. So what the app does is it rewards Link Carders with more money to spend on food, anonymously records health data about Link Card holders at farmers markets, and blah, 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 raises population health. Next. This is kind of just like a workflow diagram of how that might happen. It's just kind of like a separate tent at the farmers market. We also have another tent with the Southside Diabetes folks, and they're providing shopping tours and stuff like that. All right, next. Here's some screenshots of the app. We made it in Android. Scott Beslow, who's often here, but I think he's out of town, he was the one who helped us out with the actual coding, and we had a great team for seeing, I don't know if any of the other team members are here, but we had a great team for that found here at OpenGov. And the app's up and running. It's Android now. Hopefully we can make it cross-platform. The other thing we're hoping is that we can start to integrate with more higher tech medical devices, so that, for instance, we have these now on Nexus tabs, and if we can have some really cool things just plugged in, like little armband stuff or whatever else that might be, that could even lower the amount of time that people have to spend in the health tent in order to get that extra money to spend at the farmers market. Cool. On to the next. Yeah, it's parcels on the back end there. Next.
One question on that.
Yeah.
So the money on the link up, is that coming from individual donors as well as that government funded?
No, it's not government funded. Yeah, it's philanthropic and private donations. Yeah. Partnering with UFC Med, we had positive feedback from Link shoppers. More than 3/4 of them said that they would be down to get their health stats measured in exchange for more money to spend at the farmers market. So that was cool. We did a kind of like dry run last weekend, and then May 17th, which is our first outdoor market day, is kind of going to be like the kickoff party for that. So anyway, I feel like we've talked a lot, so maybe we can just stop and you guys can hit us with questions, or we can even just be done or whatever.
So are the donations tax deductible?
We are 501c3. Everything is tax deductible. Yeah.
So just so I'm clear, the Link benefits, the recipients, sometimes they have cash assistance on their card.
Sure.
Can that be used for the double value coupon students?
That's a good question.
So for the double value, we only process, so when you swipe with a machine, it says cash benefit or link benefit, and it's usually just press link benefit unless the customer tells us otherwise. The cash benefit on that card, back with the '96 Welfare Reform Act with President Clinton, pretty much eliminated all forms of cash assistance. So it's something that below like 2% of Link card holders actually have cash assistance on their card. But it's all processed as from their Link, because that's how the double value has to work. We can't match the Link cash. It has to be the Link food stamp dollars.
So if they have cash assistance, like a lot of people I work with, fortunately do get cash assistance, so they can or can't use that for a double
They could, if they explicitly told us when they swiped it that you'd like to process as a cash transaction and our machine prompted and gave us that option, then they could do so.
But did we have any of that?
But we've never encountered that before at 61st Street Market or at any of the 15 city Chicago markets that we've worked with. All the way back there.
So back in my first slide, that for the pie chart for the entire financial year of 2015, I believe, that there was 20,000, or sorry, that might not be the entire year, but there were 20,000 spent by a Link, and then 17,000 spent by the double value coupon. Is that because people are like maxing out on the double value coupon and then spending additional money on the Link, or is it because they're not using the entire double value coupon?
The first assertion that you had is correct. So if someone swipes their Link card and they want $40 on it, they're only getting that $25 match. So that's where the gap in distribution is. The redemption rate, both for Link dollars and DVCP, hovers around 96 to 98%. And so I think we had about $575 left on the books of unredeemed Link and double value out of the however 20,000, and so we distributed.
Okay, so it's only a $25 match, not a double match.
Matching, doubling up to 25.
Up to 25.
Yeah.
So is there a minimum spend?
Nope. So
Has that 25 always been 25 or has it been lower?
no, and in fact, 61st Street Farmers Market is one of the higher basket sizes. Some other markets in our network in the state, in the Link Up Illinois network, might only match 10 or 15. It depends on their market capacity, their administrative capacity, their funding, and their foot traffic, as well as their low-income population. So we would like to advocate for a bigger basket being matched. We think that's a good look, but that's kind of in process right now. Not everybody can start with that level.
The $25 match, is that per month?
No, it's per cardholder per market day.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So they could come like once a week. And,
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
once every
Yeah.
week or,
Yeah, so it's, I mean, the maximum is pretty, unless there's 5 Saturday markets in
Yeah.
a month, is $100 in the
Yeah.
matching
Sure.
dollar value.
And we like have some really savvy shoppers when it comes to that. For instance, there are these ladies who are retirees. Is that right? Then they garden for themselves. So they pretty much grow all their own vegetables as it is, right? But they would come to the market and load up, max it out every week, just max it out. And then they would roll up every other month with a big stack of $400 or $500, and they would buy a whole goat from a bakery. They're like, we're growing our own vegetables. We just think that we can't grow goats here or whatever. Like, we just need you can grow goats here, but it's tricky. They don't have yards for that. So we actually see a lot of really savvy kind of strategies that come through with buying this stuff. Yeah, it's like it's a party when they come through to grab that goat. Yeah. Anyway.
Do some of your purveyors drop their prices as the day goes on, like for produce, things like that?
There's not like a standard policy. Some do, for sure. I know, especially with in our market, if someone's shopping with Link, there's definitely, because all the vendors who sell at our market buy into this mission. There's no question about that. So there's definitely a sense between them. If you're buying $10 worth of apples, they might give you like 13 or something like that. Just throw some extra stuff in the bag. So there's that. The price drop is more vendor to vendor.
I had another question. This might be really digging into minutia here.
Sure.
So you mentioned food deserts or places with food access challenges. So in that area, the closest, I'm somewhat familiar with here. So the closest supermarkets that I can think of is like the Co-op or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's a Treasure Island. Yeah, Treasure Island now. Yeah.
Or Save-A-Lot.
At 63rd and
so people wants to shop at Save-A-Lot, right? Right.
Yeah.
So, but the Treasures Island, the produce is far too expensive for anybody, that's on Link to go there. So,
Sure.
like, is there a way to I mean, specifically with Save-A-Lot, there's a lower quality of produce, things of that nature. Is there a way to kind of compare the quality of food that you're,
Yeah.
I mean, it's still, it's still produce.
Yeah, for sure.
Produce.
Yeah. Well, as we kind of touched on before, we would totally like to work towards that space. And there's a lot of people that are kind of working on this, but like a Bionutrient Food Association is one of them, for instance, that's looking at to be like, it's not only like the amount of calories in your food, but it's like the nutrients in your food. Right. So if we're going to be apples to apples, but if we're going to be comparing like apples to apples, it's like, what's in that apple? It's not only necessarily whether it looks healthy, but like you can have widely varying nutrient content based on the quality of the soil that plant grows from, okay? So like you could be on like some really heady soil eating those like good veggies, and you don't need to eat a ton to get topped off on minerals and vitamins, whereas if you're buying something that, it's cheaper, but it's also much lesser quality, grown on much lesser quality soil, it's been in transit on a semi-truck, and it's a variety that's gamed for shelf life and not for nutrient density, then yeah, absolutely, we need to look at that to see like what are you getting with your dollar.
And if you go back to that Whole Foods Green City Market chart, they simply compared on one market day going and just the price tag sticker. Right. What we want to do this summer is dig way deeper into that data, so incorporate food miles, not only of how that apple got there into the price tag, but how the person got there to buy the apple, and incorporate the human transportation costs involved, not only the apple's transportation costs involved, and try to see what comes out the other end of that.
you talk to something about money market program or something?
Oh, market money.
Oh, market money is one of our outreach strategies, especially with youth. So when we do gardening classes, we do cooking classes, we do in-school classes, and so at the end of all those, there's a letter that goes home with the parents attached to either $5 or $10 worth of market money that the kids can then come and use at the market, just as kind of an introduction. We do samplings in the classes as well, and so like dipping raw rhubarb sticks into honey, and then the kids come running to the market. Danny, Mr. Danny, like where are those red sticks that I could dip in the honey? So that's what the market money is, and the dollar value isn't high or impressive, but the actual impact I think is more, but we can't measure that.
Yep.
So you guys showed a set of data from Link that had like zip code and then some stats about each transaction. Is that data that's only accessible to you, or is that publicly available?
We had to get a dispensation from the USDA and from Xerox, and then we had to bug them for 3 months after that.
Okay, so you signed like a non-disclosure, so you can't give it away.
I forget the paperwork, but yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. Probably something dumb like that. Yeah. But it was something that we like really kind of had to lobby for, to say that this would be important for us to present, because as we've been talking about, these advocacy efforts aren't necessarily government funded, but for private funders, they want to see metrics. So we're like, hey, support our food stamp program, support our farmers market program, support this education program, support this other thing. And they're like, well, what's the outcomes? What's happening with that? And like, what's happening on the consumer level of behavior? And we're just like, shrug our shoulders, don't know, it's a black box, you know. So we hope to continually to work in a positive way with the USDA, as well as like any kind of like technological providers like Xerox or whoever else it might be, to just say, hey, this data could be really, really valuable. Like for instance, I want to go back to them and say, hey, thanks for giving this to us by the month. Like, can we get it by the date? Yeah. You know, so yeah, for sure. So we'll see. That kind of remains touch and go. I don't know how you describe it exactly, but yeah. Anything else?
On 55th, there's a produce shop, a little small.
Open produce.
Yeah, that place.
Yeah.
Very affordable.
That place is awesome. Yes. Yeah.
Kind of expensive organic meat.
Sure, but organic meat should be expensive, and meat in general should be expensive because we should be eating less of it all around. Absolutely. Just putting it out there. The cost of meat is artificially cheap to everyone's detriment. And we would all do better with a lot more plants and a lot less meat. And the meat that we have should be respectful to the soil. And right now, there's almost no meat that is made that's respectful to the soil. You really need to seek out those local makers of good pasture meats.
All right.
One last one. Can you go in a little bit more about the pilot program that you're setting up?
For which?
For the mobile link.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we want to possibly try it. So there was a federal RFP that went out, and it was awarded to a company that made an iPhone sled that can print a link card receipt. And we're just not totally sure whether that is going to be a solution that is going to work for all farmers markets or all farmers markets that don't meet like a specific like administrative standard. And maybe you can speak to this because you're starting a farmers market and you know. But there are a number of farmers markets in the city that are young markets that are doing good work. But a lot of times with these types of programs, the administrative burden to get on board is just like too much. So this is unrelated to my work at Experimental Station, but looking forward to the next CNT Urban Sustainability Apps Contest, which is coming up in May and into June. If anybody would like to work on an open source food access platform that is based on an open ledger system, so that if you were to donate to food access at, let's say, a market like Justin's or Angela Taylor's Garden Network in Garfield Park, for instance, then not only would you be able to know that that's going to a market that's offering the good stuff in an area that needs the good stuff, but it would literally tell you when the money that you had put into it left, and which market it left on, and which day, and what types and generally speaking categories of foods that money that you push towards food assistance would go towards. Okay, so we're going to kind of like pilot that over the CNT Apps competition. If anybody wants to talk about it, it'll be open on GitHub. We'll like have it all be super open. Do some cool stuff with like geofencing at farmers markets and like doing stuff, because there are like administrative, like kind of bureaucratic lock-in ways that the USDA and some of these other kind of programs work that seem to be like technologically unnecessary and burdensome. Like for instance, our USDA number got shut down overnight and we couldn't serve the 61st Street Farmers Market. And the reason is that someone with a similar address to our registered address also applied. And they were like, fraud, shut it down. And we've been doing this for like years and years and years and years, and we're on like first name basis with like a lot of these folks that we're working with, and we're like, wouldn't you just call us and be like, hey, something's weird about this address, So for instance, like there are ways and there are ways. We think there are possibly more open ways to deal with the money behind food access, and I don't think that the government is going to come around anytime soon on that transparency stuff in terms of where your food assistance money is going. So we may as well do it in the meantime. Cool.
Thanks, guys.